referrals drive revenue. It's the fastest revenue driver. And it addresses the biggest problem I've heard from sales leaders, forever, and I don't think it's going to change. What do we hear? We need more leads. We need more leads. We need more leads. But they forget the word qualified.
I want to welcome you to my sales podcast, where we have one focus and one focus only. That is helping you, the sales community, and sales leaders create more conversations with more qualified buyers, ultimately leading to improving your sales productivity and closing more deals. Each show, you will hear from sales leaders, practitioners, and influencers to help you find, engage, and connect with more buyers. I'm Mario Martinez Jr., and you're now listening to the Selling with Social Sales Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Gong.io, the #1 conversion intelligence platform for sales. Gong helps you achieve revenue success, which means you win more deals, skyrocket rep performance, and gain critical market intelligence. Get powerful visibility into your customer conversations with Gong. Head over to Gong.io to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited to have my very good friend and the leading authority on referral selling, Joanne Black. Joanne, welcome to the show, my friend.
I wouldn't miss it for the world, Mario.
I'm so excited to have you on here, and I'm just disappointed that it took me 30 episodes to get you on the show. I just don't understand why it took that long for you to say you wanted to be on my show.
Well, I didn't ask, so maybe that was a bad sales move on my part. I don't know.
And I guess I'll take a little fault because I also didn't ask until now, but that's okay. We save the great ones for like when we're here a couple years into the show. So I'm excited. And for those of you that don't know Joanne's a keynote speaker. She's also a book author and the authority on referral selling, which is one of the most powerful ways to be able to get into a buyer's office. And so we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about referral selling. But before I do that, Joanne, tell us about you. Tell us about who the great Joanne Black is.
I've always sold and managed sales teams. And what I'll tell you is the reason I started my business 23 years ago was I got fired from the consulting firm I was working with.
Fired?
Yeah, fired. Yes. That's a 5-letter word. Yes.
What did you do? What
What I didn't do. I was working for months on a very, very big deal. And they went from not knowing anything about us to being one of two. Unfortunately, one of the two was the incumbent. And during the process, they'd had enough time to develop what our client wanted, even though I'd asked about it all along. So I lost it. At that time, it was $1 million deal. I had my commission spent, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I was rather shocked that it never happened before. And I left the office. I took my dog for a hike. And my manager gave me 2 weeks to get everything cleared up. Well, 3 days before I was going to leave, she came into my office and said she had a proposal for me. She wanted to know if I would be the lead consultant on 3 different projects and stay on a part-time temporary basis. So how cool was that, right?
Yeah.
I could start my own company. I stayed in my office. I had the receptionist, the copy machine, the IT group. It was perfect. And actually, my first client was a referral.
Is that when you started? No more cold calling?
Pretty much. But I never thought I would be focused on referrals. What happened, Mario, was this first client was an outplacement firm. I was working with a management team, about 6 or 8 of them, on their sales and marketing strategy. Well, more marketing. So they had a business plan, but try to find sales in that, you needed a magnifying glass. And as I was working with them, coincidentally, at the same time, they were doing a customer satisfaction survey of 50 of their best clients. It was several rounds, and for some reason, I added a question on the last round. Would you be willing to be a referral to this company? This was not a reference. It wasn't a review. It was a referral. It was a 7-point scale. 7 was high. What do you think that number came back at?
I don't know, 7?
Close. 6.5.
6.5. Wow. So they had a high interest.
50 of their best clients would, yes, of course, I'll help you out. Of course, I'll give you a referral. Were they asking?
Right.
What do you think? No.
Not at all.
Pretty much the same today. I had to think then, in my career, I realized my best business was referrals. So I did my feet on the street research, talked to salespeople, sales execs. Do you like to get referrals? They're fabulous for all these reasons. Do you have a referral methodology, a systematic process, a strategy, metrics, skills, accountability? No. So I had to figure out, on the one hand, if they're so great, why are they happening sometime? Of course, but why isn't this the way we work? I then developed a straightforward methodology to close that gap. That's how it happened.
Wow. Interesting. So wait, is that the story that nobody would know that you were fired? No. You usually ask the question, tell us something nobody would know about you, even if they looked at your social profiles. Is that one of those stories?
It is.
Or do you got something else for me?
I have a lot of things. What else do you want to know?
Well,
another story what people don't know?
Yeah, okay. How about that?
So, a long time ago, before all these electronic cars, where we had spark plugs and all of that we had to do, I worked on cars.
Did you really?
Yeah,
a mechanic?
Not professionally, but here's what happened. So I have 2 daughters, and one was approaching driving age. Well, I knew absolutely nothing about cars. So I said, I need to learn about cars, and they do as well. There was a class at the high school in the evening, and they went, I want to go. Well, we went to the first class. There were a lot of cute boys, and that was, of course, they wanted to go. And so I went to class with them, and I bought the jack to jack up the car. We changed the oil. We did everything. And then I bought the Chilton's book on, if you hear X, it means this, and check it out. So it was something totally different for me. And you know how people have hobbies and the rest of the world goes away and they just focus on that? That's what happened. Underneath that car, totally focused, nothing else mattered. It was a great diversion and interesting. It doesn't matter today because everything's electronic, but that's the way it was.
How long did you work on cars for after that? It became a hobby, it sounds like.
Well, I think probably about 4 or 5 years, because then when my younger daughter got to be driving age, we did the same thing.
Wow.
So yeah, it was about that.
Look at you. How fun is that? So we're going to call you Joanne Black, the mechanic.
Whatever you want, just as long as you don't call me Hey You.
All right. No hey you for Joanne Black. I love it. That's a great story. I did not know that about you. And interesting really about your story about being fired, which is what triggered the whole history of your company and how you've come to be known as really the leading authority around referral selling. So we're going to take some time to talk about this, what I call a pandemic in sales, the inability to leverage referrals, and all we're focused on is new, net new, right? And like we're just pounding away on the phone, cold calling, emailing, spraying and praying on LinkedIn, and all these things and these tactics. Yet most companies, to your point, have not implemented a process to go about asking, hey, do you know somebody that might be, or can you introduce me to, and actually having a targeted approach. So as you know, we've got sales leaders, we've got sales people, sales enablement, marketing, and even business owners that are listening to the podcast. So for all of you listening in, referral selling, we all know it. We all know that it's probably one of the most powerful ways to be able to get into someone's office. And it just seems like logical, pretty common sense. But I think that it's more important today than it is 2 years ago. Do you agree with that? And if so, why?
Oh, I absolutely agree with it. And even more than 2 years, because technology plays such a huge part in our lives. And referrals have become the key competitive differentiation. Because think about it. You get an introduction. That's my definition of a referral. So I introduce you, Mario, to someone you want to meet. And I know that person really well. So the trust that person has for me transfers to you, right? I call it the multiplier effect. But you arrive already trusted. And when that happens, have an entirely different kind of conversation. how do you know so-and-so? And they tell you things that they don't tell anybody else.
Absolutely.
And here's what's happened. Everybody's typing away, like you said, doing all of this. Those of us who were in there having conversations have the opportunity to build relationships, really get intel no one else gets. We get the business. We get it. In fact, one of my clients said just last month, Joanne, referrals are a tiebreaker.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, that's a very valid point. It is definitely, all things being equal, the tiebreaker, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Why then do you think companies, individuals, salespeople, you name it, have become so far removed from leveraging the referral?
How much time do you have? No.
Well, we've got about 40 minutes on the podcast.
Okay. All right. Well, there's lots of reasons. I say the first one is there's a misconception among sales leaders that they just can tell their people to go ask. It's going to work. Well, it doesn't, and they know that. I even had one company I went into, and they said, we don't understand it. Everybody has a sticky on their monitor to ask for referrals, and no one's asking. Mm. So I have a very expressive face, but I didn't act appalled. But obviously, they weren't asking. So you can't just tell people. That's one. Referrals are a behavior change. It's actually a strategy. It's a skill, and it needs execution to perfection to make it work. So forget telling. That is a huge reason. People don't realize it's a skill. It's a behavior change. There's a bunch of other reasons why. One is the way we work today. So if you think about it, and all these people on social media and sending these stupid emails, did you get my other email I sent last week? Just following up. All that junk, somebody's making them do it. And if your KPIs are around the number of calls you make, the number of emails you send, the number of people you reach out to on social media, that's what you're going to do. So am I pointing fingers at sales leaders? Well, I guess I am. Obviously, we need to be active on social media. Absolutely. And for me, I am on LinkedIn all the time, which and engaging in conversation, because it's a place to begin relationships and begin a conversation. And what's happened today, people forget that. They forget that they need to show up on social like they show up in person.
Yeah.
And all they do is send these standard invitations and no response. It's about numbers, or they pitch now on social media in the invitation.
Yeah.
Somebody is telling them to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So that is bad news. And so that's one of the reasons that everybody is so mired in technology. They forget that people do business with people. I guess unless you're selling something for $20, but we're not doing that. Yeah. So that's another misconception. Another is what I call the elephant in the room. Nobody talks about this. It is the fear of asking. I've had experienced salespeople say to me, Joanne, I don't know the reason why, but I'm just not comfortable asking. So I had to think about that. In fact, I went back years and years and years when I was doing public in-person workshops. And I remember I thought I had it all set up. We went through the process. They learned how to ask. They were practicing. And then one woman raises her hand and she said, Joanne, that's all great, but I'm just not comfortable asking. Well, it's become worse. So I had to think about what gets in the way. And here's the big one, that referral is so personal. It's the most personal kind of selling we can do. We're not hiding behind technology, right?
Right.
We are out there. We're putting our reputation on the line. And the biggest fear is that, what if they say no, right? It's that fear of rejection. It's that angst we have about asking. So this fear is huge. That is the number one biggest reason. And I've learned it doesn't matter whether we're new to sales, we're experienced. It doesn't matter our gender. It doesn't matter our culture. It's a human factor of this personal ask and not wanting to be rejected. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm surprised that, the fear of rejection, because most salespeople should be used to this concept of rejection because, well, we get no all the time, right? No, I'm not interested. No, I'm not able to buy. No, I can't do this right now. No, this is not of value to me. So it's surprising me that that's one of the big reasons, but I understand that it could be one of the big reasons. I also understand as well that we're just not doing it because the company has not made it as a practice, as the standard mode of default, to be able to look for that as the right methodology. And you said something earlier, you talked about one of the reasons why they're not doing it is because sales leaders are measuring activities, like activity-based KPIs, as opposed to what I call productivity-based KPIs, right? So the activity-based KPI is how many calls did you make, how many emails did you send out, how many LinkedIn connections did you make, those types of things. Whereas productivity KPI is how many conversations did you have, right? Because I don't care how you do it, you got to get the conversation. It could be through LinkedIn. It could be a text message. It could be an email. It could be a cold call. It could be a referral. I don't care how you do it. You got to get the conversations. That's really the productivity KPI that we need to be thinking about. And that's where I think leaders have got to transition away from that, because if they transition, whether you're a BDR or a global account manager, if they transition away from this activity and focus in on the productivity, how productive are your efforts? Now referral selling or asking for a referral can be one of those components that contribute to productivity. Does that make sense?
Well, it does make sense. And the activity and results. So when I work with clients, I always ask, what will success look like? For some people, it's more revenue. They're going into new markets. It could be X number of new clients. It could be other products, whatever it is. We need to know that. The other is the activity metrics. All right. The first is you have to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get, period. So that has to be the first metric. And you can't ask till you learn how to do it. It's part of the strategy. It becomes the culture of the organization. That is huge. So we can't just say, well, we're going to do this some of the time. It becomes proactive. Like you say, it's productive because when you get an introduction, you get the meeting, one call. It's the most fabulous kind of thing. I mean, I love what I do because I only talk to people who want to talk to me.
Yeah.
I get introduced. Boom. When do you want to talk? Okay. We have the conversation, whether it's in person, through Zoom, through text, whatever it is. We've had the conversation. That's what we want. How do we get in and have the conversation? And this works not only for enterprise salespeople who need to get in and expand within the enterprise, but also get referrals outside. Also works for mid-market, SMB. We all have those relationships we're not leveraging.
Yeah. I want to share with you something. This is going to be a little bit of a long story for those of you listening in, but I want to share with you something. So recently, a good friend of ours who Howard Dover, he is one of the professors at the University of Dallas, Texas, or Texas Dallas, I think is the proper name of UTD. And his program is the sales program. They have a minor and an undergraduate program, and I think a graduate program, if I'm not mistaken, in the sales. So this individual who calls himself the B2B client attraction expert. That's what he calls himself, who also happens to be, his website is focused on becoming a LinkedIn funnel hacker, right? So LinkedIn funnel hacker. So this individual sends Howard a note and it says, "Hi, Howard. Hope your summer 2019 is treating you well. It's been going well for me. I've been splitting my time between the city and the lake." By the way, this is a cold outreach. Cold outreach. Okay. Since we recently connected here, I wanted to reach out and tell you a little bit more who I am and what I do. Now, it's cold outreach as a result of a seller connected to Howard. And so Howard opened his network up and said, "Yeah, I'll connect with you because we're both in the sales industry." And that's what he thinks about. So this is the seller's welcome message on LinkedIn, right? This is the welcome to my network message. Yeah. So he says, "My favorite thing to do in the summer is paddle my canoe under the moon. But when I'm not doing that, I'm helping my clients use LinkedIn more effectively to grow their business. My approach is all about simplicity. I work with them to dial in their positioning and set up a simple system for getting more conversations with the right people. Do you actively use LinkedIn to grow your business, Howard? I'd love to hear what's working for you and what's not. I know you're busy, so no worries if you don't reply. I appreciate the connection and hope you enjoy the content I put out. P.S. If you're interested in learning more about how I use LinkedIn the new way, then join me next week. I'm doing a live training and Q&A. Would love to meet you face-to-face on there. You can sign up and I'll send you a reminder next week, or share it if you know someone else who might get value from it." All right. That message, I'll use this throughout the story as we continue to have a conversation. We'll talk about the replies that were made and how I got engaged in the conversation. But that message right there is what sellers are focused on or have been focused on, is creating this content, these long-winded messages to get into people's offices. The first mistake that this individual made was not recognizing and not understanding who he was, and he was not even in a buying position. That's the first mistake. Primarily because as I engaged with him, I specifically called out to this expert, this LinkedIn expert. I said, your B2B automation tool sucks. I'm letting you know, it sucks. Now, I want to use this story. We'll keep this story moving along here. But could you imagine sending out that kind of diarrhea of the mouth message to an individual to prospect them, talking about you like paddling in the canoe and underneath the moonlight sky?
Oh, delete. I mean, I get this stuff all the time. We all do, Mario. You know,
I can't make this stuff up, people. I like paddling my canoe under the moonlit sky. I can't make it up. We got to be focused in on not a spray and pray, not using automation to get where we want to go. And you're going to cringe when you hear his response. I'm going to save that in just a little bit. You're going to cringe. What we need to be focused on is the quickest path to building trust.
You can automate process, Mario, but you can't automate relationships. And that's a big problem. That's something people don't understand.
Yeah.
It's not about quantity. And, you know, it's not about the number of contacts you have. It's about the number of connections you make. And that's, you know, not only on social, but in the real world, every place.
Absolutely. 100%. And I'm going to come back to that particular comment you made, not about quantity, but I do want to ask you about just the idea of building a referral culture. Like, first off, what do you think it takes, like, to build a culture like this, to be focused in? And one of the things that we do as part of our trainings programs, we ask, like, what does your cadence look like today? What are you doing today? And believe it or not, most people don't have look and see, using LinkedIn as kind of your digital Rolodex, who is the mutual or shared connection. So this is beyond me. Like, this is the most important thing that you can do. The one single thing that you can do to impact sales right now is see who can refer you. So tell me, what does it take to build a referral culture?
I never used that word culture, Mario, until recently, because clients last fall asked me, they said they wanted to build a referral culture. And the consulting firms I worked for, culture was like this huge project. It took years. It was expensive. It was complicated. Never wanted to use the term. And then I found the definition is that culture is what people do when no one's looking. Right? Becomes our DNA. Yeah. And you start with the sales team. Referrals become their number one outbound prospecting approach. Some people get a little weird about that. You know, you're still going to do everything you do, but instead of referrals just becoming kind of happens, they come in, they become proactive, intentional, they're measured, skills are built, there's accountability, and change happens very, very quickly because referrals drive revenue. It's the fastest revenue driver, and it addresses the biggest problem I've heard from sales leaders, I mean, forever, and I don't think it's going to change. What do we hear? We need more leads. We need more leads. We need more leads. But they forget the word qualified, because we don't want smoke and mirrors in a pipe. We want qualified. And when you get an introduction to the person you want to meet, qualified, or at least pre-qualified. It's not junk.
So culturally speaking, you've got to kind of ingrain this into your sales process, your cadence, your mindset of, this is what I love this question. You've heard this 1,000 times. Sales manager is talking to sales rep. Sales rep's got a deal. It's in the pipeline. Sales manager says 2 questions. What's it going to take to close this deal? That's number 1. Number 2, who's the decision maker? Okay. We're not here to address the whole decision maker, but Gartner says there's now 10 buying decision makers that are inside of an account. 10, that's the number, 10. That used to be 6.8. Gartner says now it's 10. All right, let's move beyond that. What's it going to take to close this deal? instead of asking what's going to take to close this deal, why are we not asking who do we know that knows these particular buyers? Who can vouch for us? Who can get us a solid footing? Who can put us on stable ground, right?
Right.
And that's what I see missing from the sales process, is really thinking about, as a sales leader, I have to reframe my questioning, right? Reframe my questioning to build this referral culture that you're talking about. What do you think?
Absolutely. Well, when you just mentioned that about the questions that are asked, it's all about push, 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 close, 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 close. And that's an error, because we are not asking the kinds of questions we need to ask. We're not building the relationship. I've learned when you build a relationship with someone, and that means, you've met with them, you like each other, they tell you stuff, my technical term, they don't tell other people.
Yeah. That
you get so much intel about a company that you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. And very often, they say, well, I want you to meet so-and-so, and they offer to introduce you. It just happens that way, but you can't push it, right? You can't automate it. It needs to be genuine. And that's what happens with referrals. It's about that commitment. It's about what I say to sales leaders. You need to put that stake in the ground and say that referrals are going to be the number one way we prospect outbound, because I know that referrals drive revenue. They're the fastest revenue driver and the fastest and most profitable revenue driver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. I'll tell a story here, Joanne, and it's probably a good point. Kurt was working on a fairly large, sizable deal that we're, knock on wood, getting ready to execute a new contract for. And as we were thinking about this particular customer, they were a partner of one of our other customers that we continue to train, one of our largest customers. And so we were talking about the strategy, and I said, well, do you think there's somebody at our current customer, like, from a partner, like, I know we haven't trained everybody at this organization, and not everybody knows us because the partner is a big Fortune, 100 company. And so I said, is there somebody there that you think we could find out? And he said, well, I wasn't sure. And I said, I'll tell you what, why don't I ask the senior vice president of channel partnerships if he knows this company? So I call him up and say, senior vice president of channel sales, this is a partner apparently of yours. I don't know if you're the right group. I don't know if you're the right partner. Is this one of your partners? And he responds back with, yes, it is. It's one of our partners. And we say, wow, fantastic. Well, how well do you know them? And he's like, well, they're a solid performer. We had got some good revenue from them. And I was like, well, great. Well, who's the VP and the salesperson over this particular account? And he says, oh, it's so-and-so and so-and-so. And I said, oh, so-and-so and so-and-so. Isn't that one of the students that we just put through our training program last month? It happened.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. And
I call it serendipity, right?
Serendipity. That's right. Serendipitous. That's right. And so it really was. And so I connected Kurt with the vice president and the salesperson that was inside of our training, who had gone through our training program. And that's what we're looking at selling to this particular partner. And they got connected. They were a referral for us. And the customer, the very first time ever, this particular customer, the very first time we have ever had it, where someone wanted to talk to a reference of ours. And we're like, we've got 500 on LinkedIn. Are you kidding me? Like, do you really need more? Do you really need more? He had to talk to a reference. Okay. So we put them in touch together, and lo and behold, we come out as, well, we're going to win this particular deal.
And you've made a point too, that the thinking about referrals, when you back up and think about it, is that you're actually enrolling others in your sales team.
Yeah.
So they become an extension of your sales team when they're introducing you to other people. It's a really cool concept.
And I think one of the points I wanted to drive home, and this is something really that you advocate as well, that a referral doesn't have to happen as part of the prospecting. It can happen when you're in a sales process.
That's right.
Right? Like the way I just described. So sometimes we think about, maybe we didn't use a referral to get into someone's door, but we have a live opportunity. But correct me if I'm wrong, we can still do this research and have someone help vouch for us and be part, as you said, be enrolled in the sales process, even midway through a sales opportunity.
Absolutely. So I say you can ask for a referral anytime you've provided value. Well, that's overused phrase. What does it mean? When you hear somebody say thank you, I never thought of it that way, or that was an interesting insight. You've helped them out. And then absolutely when you sign the deal, a lot of people wait too long, Mario. Right? They say, I can't do it when I sign the deal. I have to wait till the implementation team goes in. No, I have to wait till they get results. And the problem is you're just too far away from your buyer at that point.
Yeah.
So don't wait that long.
Yeah, good point. I want to talk about some of the misconceptions about referral selling. But before we do that, and we talk about some of these misconceptions, I want everybody to listen in to this message from our program sponsor. Opinions in sales are your worst enemy. Here's why. Your business has million-dollar questions that if you could answer with facts, you'd have an unfair advantage. Those questions are, what really separates your best reps from the rest? Why does half of your pipeline slip? And what's the best message to go to market with? If your answers were facts instead of opinions, you'd win the unfair share of your market. It turns out the truth is buried right underneath your nose. It's found in the customer conversations your team has every day. Introducing Gong.io. Gain powerful visibility into your customer conversations. With Gong, you'll win more deals, skyrocket rep success, and gain critical market intelligence that will help you achieve revenue success and win the lion's share of the wealth. Go to gong.io/demo to get started today. All right. Right before that particular break from our program sponsor, I said to you I want to talk about some of the misconceptions, salespeople's misconceptions. Talk a little bit about that. And I think you've got some really good insight about this. So tell us a little bit about some of these misconceptions.
Well, I mentioned one, that all we have to do is ask, and that doesn't work. Another is it takes too long, if you can believe it. It takes too long. People think, it's just much faster to hit people, with technology. It doesn't take too long, right? You build a relationship, you get an introduction, you get the meeting. That's a huge misconception. Another is that, we can't ask our clients for referrals because after all, they paid us. Now, this is huge. It's also the biggest gap, which I know we're going to talk about. But that's a big one. And some of that, Mario, is the way that companies are organized, especially software firms. So if I'm an account executive and I sell a deal, then I hand it off to customer success. Then I go after the next one. Well, what's the matter with that picture? Of all these people I met in the sales process, we need to be asking every single one, and nobody is. That's a really big misconception that I can't ask my clients, right? So those are really that it takes too long, that we can just tell our people to go get referrals, that we can't ask our clients for referrals. Oh, and the other thing, here's what drives me up a tree. When I read things that people are talking about referrals and say, they're easy, all you have to do is ask. Well, we know that doesn't work. So I say they're simple. It is simple, but it's not easy because you have to build skills, learn the process. And then it does become easy. Like any skill, you need to build it, you need to practice it, it needs to be reinforced, and then it becomes the way you work.
What is the process? Tell me what that process is. Like, you can give me 3 things that salespeople should do, or I don't know, maybe whatever. 1, 2, 3, 10. I don't know what the number is, right? What is that process to be that? If I'm listening to this call right now, either a sales leader or a sales rep, what do I do?
3 things. We think in terms of 3.
All right.
The first is we need a strategy. Now, I'm a salesperson. I don't want a binder. Half a page, doesn't matter. If you're an individual rep, what are your goals around referrals? What do you want to have happen? And be very, very specific about new clients, about revenue, about product, whatever you want. But what are your goals? In what time frame are you going to do this? I'm working with a client now, and he has really some, I think, way too aggressive goals. We have to monitor that. So there's this definition of a goal. It's achievable with a little bit of stretch. because all of us in sales have known we've had goals and we say, oh, no way. And then you stop trying. So being very, very specific about your goals, and within that strategy piece, how are you going to measure it? As an example, if your sales process is rather short, 30 days, 60 days, maybe even 90, you're going to measure closed business. Working with one client, their sales cycle is 18 to 24 months. There was no way they could measure closed business. So the COO said, I just want to measure the deals that get into Salesforce as an opportunity that we wouldn't have had. That was his metric. Depends on your sales cycle. You have to put metrics with it. Activity metrics as well as the results metrics, which could be revenue, number of clients, whatever. That's the first piece, strategy. It doesn't take long. When I work with clients and I'm talking to sales leaders, we're looking at 90 minutes, right, to do this process. Part 2, it's a skill. Part 3, execution. So the skill piece is what people don't think matters. There's a way to ask that we get the introduction. And there's building blocks. So before you can ever ask for a referral, you need to communicate the business reason for the introduction.
Sure, yeah.
Because I'm going to refer you, Mario, because you're a nice guy. I like you. You're knowledgeable. I've taken your course. You're fabulous, all of that. But
well, thank you. Please tell me more. Tell me more.
And you're wearing blue today. Anyhow, but that's why somebody's going to take a meeting. Mario's a nice guy. You really should talk to him. Well, why? So how do you communicate the business reason? And it's not the way we usually do it. So that's absolutely powerful. Step 2 is, who do I want to meet? People aren't mind readers. It's weird, but people have asked me, Joanne, do you need more business? I mean, I look at them like, what planet are you from, right? We all figure it out. People don't know. Number 1, you need more business. Number 2, who do you want to meet? And people want to make a good connection. Think about it. When we refer someone, we trust them enough to take care of our connection as we would. We want to make sure it's a good match. So we need to communicate the person we want to meet. So within the skill piece, it's what's the business reason? Who do you want to meet? Then let's get our list together of all the people we know and where we have the best relationships. And then we're going to put all that together and learn how to ask. And I will tell you the operative word is who. I have a lot of what words, Mario. You can't say no to who are 1 or 2 people you can introduce me to. Who are 1 or 2 people I should meet. And what people say is, well, do you know anyone? This is the line that, okay, we've eaten today, right? I call it my finger down my throat line. If you know anyone who could benefit from my services, please let them know. Well, why do they say that? Well, they say that because they haven't learned how, but they also say it because they're uncomfortable asking.
Yeah.
So the answer would be pretty much no. And so they can check it off the list and say, I've asked. So that's part of the process. And then once we get them thinking of 1 or 2 people, then we have to spend time asking about those people. Because you look at LinkedIn, people only know about us from what we put on LinkedIn.
Sure.
They don't know who your next door neighbor is, your brother-in-law is, who was your roommate in college, who was your best friend at the place you used to work, who's your running partner. Unless we put it on there, we don't know. All these people could be sources of referrals. Sure. So we only know what people tell us. That's why, Mario, if I ask you for a referral and you come up with someone, I'm going to ask you, well, what made you think of that person? What about it in our conversation? Did they say to you they needed more leads? Did they say to you that people weren't getting meetings at the right level? What have you heard them complain about? And then we have that conversation. So I'm going to get intel from you because you know that person. That's what I want to know. I want to learn as much as about their business as I can. And then when can you introduce me? And how do you want to be introduced? Are you going to see that person? Are you going to email them? Are you going to call them on the phone? If you're going to email them, would you like me to send a couple sentences you can bookend? No attachments, by the way. I had one client who was sending 3 attachments because your only goal there is to get the intro and get the meeting, and you'll copy me on the introduction. So that's that process. Then we're going to practice. So we only get better at any skill by practicing. And then the execution. The only people who should be involved are the ones who'd agree to be accountable for a result. And that can be a really small one. Like, I agree to bring in 1 new client from a referral. I agree to ask 1 person a week for a referral, by the way. That's the minimum. Something to be accountable. And then they need that reinforcement, that coaching from the sales leader, from me, from an online tool that we have. All of this is essential, because without that reinforcement and coaching and without ongoing practice, total waste of money.
So, Joanne,
that was a long answer.
That was a great answer. Good, yeah, very methodical and good steps. So, Joanne, since you're going through our Selling with LinkedIn sales training program, who do you know that that could benefit from this particular program?
No, not who could benefit. Who do you know who has X challenge, right?
Okay.
But unless we solve a problem, doesn't matter. So if everybody knew how to use LinkedIn and we're doing it perfectly, it wouldn't matter what you do. If everybody had all these qualified leads in their pipe, wouldn't matter what I do.
Okay, so
we're all solving a problem.
Okay, so with this training, this is a good live exercise right here. So instead of saying, who do you know that could benefit? Or most people say, if you know someone, let me know. Joanne says, wrong, don't do that. And then I said, well, who do you know that could benefit from this? Wrong question. Try it again. All right, here we go. Who do you know that is wanting to create more sales conversations and increase their sales win rates that could benefit from our program? Is that the right question?
I love everything you got to who could benefit from our program, because all you want to know who has that problem.
Okay.
You don't need to talk about what you do yet.
Okay. And then, okay, all right. Let's try it again one more time. Joanne, who do you know that wants to create more sales conversations and increase their sales win rates? Question mark, period. Done.
That's it. And then you're going to get an answer. Because here's the thing. We always talk about what we do. No one cares about us. No one cares about what we do. They only care about us solving a problem that they have. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, we can't wait to say, oh, this is what we do. Just no, nobody cares. Think about it. If you're pitching or you're saying, oh, here's what we do, here's what we do, here's what we do. And I have this great training on LinkedIn, and it's in small modules and pieces, and it has quizzes, and you can go through at your own pace, and I'm falling asleep.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. And I was live enactment or reenactment or role play, whatever you want to call it. I want to go back to the story I was telling about this B2B client attraction expert who's a LinkedIn expert. Yeah. So our friend introduces the two of us, and he says, Mario, meet so-and-so, so-and-so meet Mario. Just thought I would do, make this introduction before I remove the connection. Yeah. And so I reply back to so-and-so, I believe this particular training program will help you learn how to sell with LinkedIn and create more sales conversations. The automation you used clearly didn't work well, as you didn't take the time to learn who Howard was and what he does.
Right.
I would encourage you to take this course. Good luck. Now, this is it. I don't know, this is cold from scratch, right? So then I get this and ready. You ready to fall off your rocker here? Okay, here we go. The LinkedIn expert writes back, LOL, laugh out loud, thanks. But you'd be surprised how well my automation strategies do work. Excuse the hell out of me. All right, here we go. They don't land with everyone, but it's a numbers game. That one simple message, the one I read to you earlier on, about the guy, I like canoeing under the moonlight stars. That one simple message sent to my new connections averages me about 150,000 webinar registrations per month. I'm doing over $20,000 a month in sales of my LinkedIn course by doing 2 webinars a month. I encourage you to take my course to learn how to do it. Good luck. Yeah. And so I write back, oh, that's great. Well, if you'd like to make millions of dollars per year and get 500 to 1,000 registrants in your webinar, please let me know. But this automation, and he admitted to using automation, And all he did was run a search on LinkedIn, and anybody who fit the search criteria just started pounding away a message on them, which is exactly like, some of these technology tools have the ability to do that. But if we are smart about how we use them, which are the great technology tools like Outreach and SalesLoft and others, InsideSales.com, and there's some great, powerful tools there that if you have a good process, could help you win, could help you succeed. But yet we use them the wrong way, and you hear people like this justifying it, that, basically it's spray and pray. Someone's bound to respond and someone's bound to not respond. This just blows my mind.
Yeah, well, mine too. And that's pitching. It's the same as if you're in person pitching. It's the same if you're sending emails, it's the same you're cold calling and you're talking about what you do. What people forget is that we don't want everybody. We can choose the kind of clients we want.
Yeah.
And I have a phrase that many of us know. We've all had PITA clients, PITA, right? Pain in the ass. Client.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we don't want those because when we have them, they take more time. I tell people sometimes they have to take it because their company wants a logo or whatever. And all I say is prepare your team, charge 50% more, and because it's going to be just a brain drain and you're going to be losing money. So we have that choice. And that's why when we ask for a referral, we ask for exactly the kind of person we want. And we don't want PITAs because PITAs hang out with other PITAs.
I love that. We don't want PITAs because they hang out with each other. It's interesting because we're working with a new client. I'm not going to mention by name, but a very, very good client, well-known organization. And they sell services, memberships to companies. One of the things that they're wanting to do, they want right now, I want results right now. Well, we haven't even started the program. And as you know, our team's program is a 3-month-long program, right? It's going to take time to change behavior on how to do leverage, in this case, LinkedIn, digital selling correctly. And so I need results right now. I can't wait 3 months. So one of the things that we came up with was, all right, let me ask you a question. Of all of the current companies that are your customers today, do you have a connection strategy? Meaning, are your sellers actually connected to your customers? And in this case, believe it or not, most of them are not connected. It's not there's no metric to manage that. There's no metric to monitor that. And I said, so you and I both know for as long as I've been selling this, my 22nd year, the fastest way to get into someone's office, if you're trying to prospect and net new, is to get the referral. So how then do you leverage the referral by an existing customer, which is happy with your services and work, if your team is not connected because they don't know who to ask to get into the new company's doors? And so this is a strategy that we are really starting to peel the onion back to start looking at what is called the 6 degrees of separation, right? How are you connected and intertwined? And I really do believe that companies need to start implementing a connection strategy as associated with clients and client personnel. What do you think?
Well, I 100% agree with you. And when I've worked with clients, and I don't teach what you do, but they always say, how to referrals on LinkedIn, what's the similarities there? Some of them don't even understand why they should be connected to their clients. Exactly. So that goes even worse, right?
Yeah. We have this thing called shared connection, mutual connections. Oh my God. It's like, do you know what the power that's in your hands?
That's it. We have this pot of gold. I think of it as our customers. They love us. We've done good work for us with them. They've gotten results. We've saved their many times, sometimes their jobs.
Yeah.
So we have this, and then we kind of set it aside and forget we even have it. And we need to be asking everyone, and here's what happens, that the more sophisticated our solution, we think, oh, they wouldn't know anyone. Because we're working with decision makers in the beginning, and then we're working with users, and then we're working with, I don't know, somebody who's maybe lower down the pole, so to speak. Everybody knows someone, and we don't know who people know until we ask. Mm-hmm. And that's why my motto is ABA, always be asking.
ABA. You heard that here on Selling with Social. Always be asking. I love that. I love that. Well, we're coming up here on time. I have one more question. Well, actually, two more questions for you. Closing out the subject on referral selling. What is the biggest missed opportunity in asking for referrals?
It's current clients. And I ask every client of mine, and I just did a presentation this week. And I asked them, I said, who in the room has asked every one of your clients for a referral? Not one hand goes up. Who in the room has asked, well, most? No. Who has asked, well, around 50%? Yeah, just a few hands, they go up like this, halfway. And then who's forgotten to ask? And lots of hands go up. And who hasn't asked any? And more hands go up. And that is the biggest missed opportunity. But it's also where this elephant in the room comes in, this fear of asking, the fear of no, the feel of sounding desperate, the feeling you're pushy, you're in their face, you're just an obnoxious salesperson. Maybe you missed something during the sales process and you should have heard about it, but you didn't. They're going to drop a bomb on you. You got to fix it. Now you can't sell. So all of this gets in the way with our current clients. They are our best source of new business.
There you have it, from the industry's leading expert on referral selling, all around referral selling. Joanne, if someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way? Should they connect on LinkedIn, follow you on Twitter? What's the best way?
Oh, they can do all of that. So first, if you'd like to reach me electronically, it's Joanne, Joanne, at nomorecoldcalling.com. I read and answer all my emails. My website is nomorecoldcalling.com. You see, we have a theme here. Please invite me on LinkedIn, but do it this way. Tell me you heard this podcast with Mario and what you took away, because I answer every personal invitation myself. And that's the way to build a connection, start conversations, like you say, and build relationships. Now, I do also have a phone. So you can call me at my office, which is 415-461-8763. 415-461-8763. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. That is Pacific time. And for those of you who are time challenged, we are 3 hours earlier than the East Coast.
And are you on Twitter?
Oh, yes, I am, at Referral Sales.
So we'll put all of this stuff inside the show notes for all y'all that are thinking, oh my God, I can't get it all. Don't worry. It's in the show notes. No worries at all. And Joanne, one last question for you, and that is your all-time favorite movie. What is it? An
Affair to Remember.
I don't remember.
Cary
that.
Grant. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Oh, wait.
You're a joker.
This is an old school one, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. So I go back.
Cary Grant.
Yes. But here's the thing, that it is the most wonderful film, and it was shot in a different time. I think it was in the 50s.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you were born in, 2010. You can, you might be you can watch that one. That's fine. But if you were born in probably, anything 2000 or earlier, if you haven't seen it, watch it. It's a wonderful black and white film, I think, unless they've recolored it or something. I don't know.
I love it. Well, there you have it from Joanne. But here's what I want you to do right now, all of you listening, and do not touch that play button or pause button or X button. Listen to this very important message here right now. Sales managers, before you go, does it feel like everything is a priority and everyone is asking for your time and attention? Here's a free video training that will help you manage your time, double your income, and will skyrocket your team's success. It's called the Sales Management Matrix. You'll learn exactly how to spend your time for the highest revenue return possible. Go to gong.io/matrix to get the free 19-minute video training. Again, that's gong.io/matrix. Go there now, and we'll see you on the next episode. Hey, thanks for listening to the Selling with Social Sales podcast. Did you enjoy that show? If so, would you do me a huge favor and give the Selling with Social podcast a rating and review on iTunes? That would be super awesome. Also, if you want to easily find our show, just go to vengreso.com. That's VENGRESO.com and click on podcast. From there, you'll find the Selling with Social podcast. Thanks for listening in. And until the next show, be awesome. Mario Martinez Jr.